Mike, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into your story and all the things that you've kind of built from a business standpoint. But let's dive into a little bit about who is Mike today, and then we'll break down how you got there.
I'm still, if you know, let me know. I'm still trying to figure that out. No, I mean, I say that because I had a 10-year career as a professional athlete, and whether it's people in the military or other buddies of mine who are ex-pro athletes that I've trained with, it's always an identity issue, right? So it doesn't matter how long your career is or what you've done. Like most of us at that point have been training since we were little. I mean, I first put on boxing gloves when I was 8 years old. So for me, who am I right now is a business owner and a person who is trying to heal because of all the pain, physical and mental, that I've gone through as a result of sports. And, being an athlete brought me some incredible things. I've got to do some amazing things that I'm so grateful for and perform on stages in front of thousands and millions of people and chase my dream, and all that's incredible. And I have so many takeaways from that. But what it also has caused me is definitely pain, physical pain, just going through the grind and just kind of working on healing and looking for all natural solutions to heal, and trying to find my identity post being an athlete. Because I think, like anybody transitioning into something else, how I received love, how I felt like I was enough, how I felt like I had purpose was all from sports. And it's such a unique thing to be a pro athlete and then feel like it's all taken away from you, because I'm still on paper young. I'm 34 years old, but it wasn't my choice to retire necessarily. I mean, it was my body. And it's such a wild thing to still want those feelings of adrenaline and purpose and passion, but your body just can't stay, on pace with your mind. And that's what happened to me. And it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because I needed to retire and heal, and had a great long career. But so yeah, long story short, I'm still trying to figure that out, but enjoying the journey.
Yeah, man. Let's go back a little bit into boxing. First of all, anybody who signs up to purposely get punched in the face blows my mind. That's a different kind of mindset. So you said you started when you're 8. Who got you into it, and what made you decide like this is a passion? What was the moment?
Yeah, I think it was my father. My father was always a great athlete and just a tough guy. Grew up inner city Chicago, and just always, raised me to want more, and constantly push myself. I never loved fighting. I just happened to be good at the sport. I think I excelled well. Maybe I had great hand-eye coordination, and there were obviously some things that genetically I had to make me a good fighter. But a lot of the other things were just kind of learned through day in, day out training. I mean, I played a million different sports growing up. It's just boxing kind of started to take off. I started winning in the amateurs. I won the Golden Gloves in my class. And then right about 21 years old, I got a call from a few promoters, one of them, Bob Arum and Top Rank. And for me, that's like getting signed by the New York Yankees. Like Top Rank signed, they had Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, all these incredible champions. So I had a choice to go after and chase my dream, which a lot of people told me I shouldn't because of how dangerous this sport is. I mean, three fighters, top level fighters, died a couple of years ago in this sport, alone worldwide. So I knew it was dangerous, but I just always had this dream of becoming a champion, of winning belts. And, I had this ideology at a little age that tomorrow is promised to no one, and I have to go for it and not to live my life with regrets. And so, I jumped in a ring, and, I ended up having 22 fights. And as I mentioned before, super grateful for it. But it all started from first walking into that gym when I was 8 years old, and just falling in love with the sport and the competition, really more than the fighting itself.
Yeah, I mean, and boxing is so intense, and I'm not necessarily speaking from experience any way, shape, or form, but I attended a mastermind. So I live about 35 minutes from the Muhammad Ali camp where he would go and train. Like it's in the middle of nowhere, like up on this mountain, and he's got all these cabins and stuff. And so they held a mastermind there, and went through a couple of the boxing training routines with a coach named Bruce Babashan. And it was just super intense. Even for 2 days straight, I was so insanely sore. So I want to talk a little bit about the mindset that goes into from a young age and all your life, and the dedication. Like, what did that look like? What was your workout regimen? What kind of stuff were you doing on a daily basis to get to the level that you did? Because obviously we see behind you, anybody watching the video, we see behind you multiple belts. So talk about, how do you get to that top level?
Man, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of mindset, a little bit of luck. I think the one thing I found towards the last 2 years of my career, I was ranked top 10 in the world and kept climbing the ranks. And what I found was the top 10 in the world, they were all, fast, strong, smart. It was really, really incredible to see that level of athleticism and the speed. But really what separated, I think, the good from the great was the mindset. And to be quite honest, I didn't have a huge amateur career. I don't think I was the most skilled person. You look at a Floyd Mayweather, his skill level is, 10 out of 10. I had a lot of athleticism. I had speed. I had some physical attributes, but I really just willed myself to this position. I think overexceeded expectations, sometimes even my own, but it really came down to mindset. I started working with a sports psychologist early in my career. We would work on a ton of visualization techniques of literally when I was hopping in the ring, I had a fight in Madison Square Garden early in my career, for instance, 20,000 people, and prepping before that, closing my eyes, visualizing hundreds of times what it's going to look like, smell like, what the blood and sweat's going to taste like, to trick my brain into feeling like I belonged in there. And I'd already been there hundreds of times. And it really was a tool I used a lot, almost like it's a fake it till you make it type thing, because at that level, your brain really doesn't know the difference between perception and reality. And so before I started doing that, I'd hop in the ring and I'd be really, really nervous. And I switched that feeling of nervousness to excitement. And it started to help me. And I started winning a lot more. But, in terms of the training, it was just nonstop, man. It was all day, every day, sparring. It was beating up my body. And so I had to get my mind right. And I got to 22 fights, and then enough was enough. My body started breaking down.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. I love that you use visualization to the level of, including all your senses. And that's something that anybody who listens to my podcast, they know that's something that is a daily routine of mine, to do a daily visualization practice where I bring in all the elements. I remember my first live event that I hosted myself was 2019, and people were coming up to me and they're like, "Are you nervous?" And I was like, "I've already done it 10,000 times." You know what I mean? And the vision from who was there, what did it sound like? What did it smell like? What would it taste like? All those things really changes the game. And you can really kind of utilize that in all areas of your life, whether it be, building a business like you've done now, and all the other things that you venture to do next. You put yourself in that position mentally, and then it's easier to kind of prepare for that. Now, you talked a little bit about when your career ended, there was an identity crisis, right? Like, who am I now? Talk a little bit about that and where your mindset was there when your career was done and you're like, what do I do next?
Yeah. I mean, I think I was lucky that I started our CBD wellness company, Soul CBD. And it was a great thing to kind of transition to, but I'm not going to lie, it's hard. And I think a lot of people deal with that, whether you're a pro athlete or, as I mentioned, the military, or even just switching careers. It's kind of scary for me, just because my entire life, it's all I knew was fighting, training, winning, losing, picking myself up, like being part of a team. You're just used to that cadence and that feeling of purpose and identity, and especially the adrenaline rush. I mean, God, Madison Square Garden, MGM Grand, Cowboys Stadium, the feeling of walking through that tunnel and there's thousands of people and you're about to perform. It's this element of you're excited, you're scared shitless, you're focused, you're dialed. It's just like, it's a drug that you'll never feel anywhere else. And so I became addicted to that drug of that adrenaline rush. So when it was done, it was done. It was a hard transition, and it kind of still is, in a sense of like, I don't miss the pain, but I do miss that feeling. And so finding out kind of who I am and what I like outside the sport is really important. And it's now what I'm diving into, and it's how I got into business, and something that I'm continually working on, because I think as you wrap up your purpose in your identity, it can be a dangerous thing, because when something like that is gone, it really can hurt you. But you don't think about it when you're in it, man. When you're young and undefeated, I'm telling you, it's weird. You feel immortal. You feel like this ride's never going to end. And then all of a sudden it is. And you're like, well, what do I do now? So still struggle, but getting better and better every day.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's super important to talk about, just because you see so many people who were at the top of their game, whether it's as a professional athlete or as a musician or whatever, and then it all goes away and they're lost. And a lot of them end up taking their life. And a lot of them get to that depression standpoint where everything kind of ends for them. And I think this idea of continuous growth beyond that thing that you felt you were put on this earth to do is massive. Like that's something that should be talked about every single day to the masses, right? Like, as people are trying to find their purpose or redefine who they are. That's just such a huge thing, man. And, you know, you talk about your body breaking down towards the end of your career and being like, mentally, I felt like I could do it, but my body just wasn't there. Talk a little bit about that. When did you realize that your body started to break down?
Yeah, you know, I actually in 2013 is when I started getting sick. I was undefeated. I was 12-0 on top of the world. I actually think I just had a fight in Madison Square Garden. I had this big campaign with Subway. So I ended up doing 2 Super Bowl commercials, did a commercial for the Olympics. I was on top of the world, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, life hit me and smacked me in the face. I was out of the ring for almost 2 years. I started getting really, really sick. My immune system started shutting down. I was getting really bad headaches daily, bad inflammation, back flare-ups. My body was just basically shutting down. I couldn't figure it out. And along with that came full-blown anxiety attacks, depression. It was the darkest period of my life, to be honest. I don't know what triggered it, but I eventually was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and they thought I actually had another one. The first one was known as ankylosing spondylitis, and the second one lupus. So everything just started compounding on top of each other. I was literally in hospital beds, laying there watching my commercial on TV, and was very private about it, but wondering, do people even know the kind of pain I'm going through? I mean, at one point I was on 8 different medications, antidepressants, anti-anxiety, painkillers, Humira, methotrexate. I mean, all of it. Anybody who has autoimmune issues may, be familiar with some of those, but it was really from that journey that I kind of realized that like number 9 wasn't the answer. And I don't demonize pharmaceuticals or Western medicine. I think that they serve their purpose and place, without a doubt, help me. But I slowly but surely, naturally, with everything from diet change to mindset to natural therapeutics, different IVs, everything under the sun, I started reading about and looking into because I was forced to. And and CBD was one of those things I found as well. For me, especially with autoimmunity, it's really about getting out of that fight or flight and getting into your parasympathetic system. And, fight or flight and those cortisol levels being raised can trigger autoimmunity. And I think that, me being a fighter, I was constantly in fight or flight. So, through that journey, I ended up learning so much about myself. I feel like I changed as a human being. I became less egotistical. It was less about me, and fighting and being on TV, and more about other people. And I started to just kind of mature and evolve. And I ended up clawing my way back into the ring. I got off all the medication, which I'm proud of. And, ended up having 9 more fights and fighting for a couple titles. My last fight, fighting for a world title, the MGM Grand. And so it's been a long journey, and I still have some level of pain every single day. I broke my hand, my nose multiple times. I broke my rib two fights ago, the autoimmunity, inflammation. So I'm still trying to solve that. But the fact that I went from hospital beds to fighting for a world title, to me, was arguably the greatest accomplishment of my life, regardless of these belts behind me and regardless of the wins or losses. And it kind of gave me this mindset and this feeling of hope that, like, even though I still deal with pain on a daily basis, that like, I can figure this shit out, because if I could do that before, then anything is possible for me. And so constantly trying to reiterate that in my head when I have really dark, bad days, which I still do.
Yeah. So you talk about being on 8 medications and now you're on none. What does it look like now? Like, what are the daily practices? What are you taking that's natural, that's kind of able to replace that to kind of help you through?
Yeah. So, I started working with functional medicine doctors. Too often when I was going, they sent, my agent, they sent me to the best specialists ever. And I always say, like, the problem is if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so I think the doctors were trying to help me, but, every specialist I saw felt like it was their place to insert pharmaceutical or insert, some type of therapeutic here. So anyway, the functional medicine doctors and just this holistic idea started looking at everything. And so in terms of like my daily regimen, mean, I'm staring in my backyard. I have a sauna back there. I have an ice bath. Those are massive for me, not only get out of fight or flight, but to reduce inflammation. There's a lot of studies backing that up. My supplement shelf is stacked with stuff from CBD to turmeric to magnesium. So really diving into anything that's anti-inflammatory, that's, as I mentioned, getting me out of fight or flight is huge for me. Breathing exercises has been massive, which is a definite indicator that my stress levels are triggering my autoimmunity, because I'll get energy after breathing techniques, even if it's something as simple as like box breathing, like, or 4-7-8 breathing versus like the all out holotropic breathing. And then, diet is massive. And that's a constant struggle of trying to figure out exactly what it is with the different IgG and MRT testing. And, but really getting into the anti-inflammatory diet, cutting out gluten. And I know it seems like, I was kind of doing it before, but like getting religious about it. I think people don't realize how much, the gut affects the brain, whether it's, depression, serotonin, dopamine, and autoimmunity. So just understanding that gut brain connection, and doing all these little practices has been massive for me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll have bad days where I need to take some Tylenol. I'm off the painkillers, but, unless you count Tylenol, so there'll be bad days where I have to take Tylenol. I have to take like a ton of CBD or even some THC. But as I said before, it's progress, right? That's what it is. Yeah. And so I've made so much progress. So I'm grateful.
No, that's huge, man. And to be so aware, especially with somebody who, was on pain pills, it's so easy to become so reliant on them, right? And you go, oh, take this, I feel better, at least for X amount of time, right? And not be stuck. So I think self-awareness is such a huge key to what you went through, to be like, okay, this is not helping me in any way, shape, or form. I need to figure out what's going to help me and get me better naturally. And I think that's a huge lesson for so many people listening, right? And anybody who knows my story, my mom ended up losing a 20-year battle to opioids. And so pain pills to me are the devil, right? And so if anybody can wean themselves off, especially somebody who's still in pain on a regular basis, that's huge. I mean, it's such a huge thing. And there are alternatives out there. I think to kind of open people's eyes to that is super powerful, man. And obviously CBD plays a big part, which is why you started Soul CBD and all the things in between. Talk a little bit about that journey from going, hey, look, I realized this has been a great tool for me and I want to help get it to more people. Was that the thought process behind it?
100%. So the timing was serendipitous and pretty incredible, because one of these belts behind me, I won a junior world title at a big fight on CBS. In the second round of that fight, I broke my rib. So I went 8 more rounds with a broken rib. I somehow gutted out a W, won the belt. That got me to number 3 in the world. And then I kept moving up and had a chance to fight for a world title. So that was some of the worst pain I've ever been in my life. Like, I remember being in the ring with Teddy Atlas and he's interviewing me. I knew it was a sloppy shit fight, but I could barely breathe. And all I was thinking was just get through the round. I was just score some points, hold them. It's going to be ugly, but just win the fight. I ended up walking back to the dressing room after the interview, and I collapsed. And I basically was in so much pain, they had to rush me to the hospital. I was in the hospital till 4 a.m. And I ended up breaking a rib and then also detaching a muscle that was attached to it. So anybody who knows, when you break a rib, A, it's the worst pain ever. Okay. And B, you can't do much. There's not rehab, right? When I broke my hand or you hurt other areas, you can be in the gym. Maybe you're only punching with one hand, but with a broken rib, I mean, it hurt just to get up to go take a piss. So
as you said, like even just to breathe,
dude, so, and it was actually dangerous, because since I had been on painkillers before, they put me on them again, which I needed to be on. And then I was nervous. I was like, shit, am I going to be addicted to painkillers again? So that was a delicate balance. And so, I started taking CBD. One of my buddies worked for like one of the best farms in the country of hemp, and organically farmed and all the right practices. And so WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, approved it in 2017, as long as there was no THC in it, because I was getting regularly drug tested. And the CBD really helped me, man. It started helping me to get off of the pain meds at that time. I think I was still on anti-anxiety meds, lorazepam as well. So, I started kind of weaning off those, and the CBD started really helping. And I always say this, CBD was a big part of the puzzle for me. It's not the entire puzzle. It would be super disingenuous to say it's going to save your marriage. It's going to help your kids get straight A's. It's going to do everything for you. Every single person is different, but for me, it helped massively. And so I went to my sister and, I was out for 6-7 months because of the rib. And I was like, Ange, we have to share this message. This stuff's incredible. It gets a bad rap. People don't understand the difference between CBD, CBN, THC, the other cannabinoids. And so we started a little like side hustle, literally ordered some stuff, threw up a website. I was labeling till 2 a.m. in her spare bedroom. I was running to UPS with our like 5 orders a day. I remember we started our MailChimp account with 10 email addresses, right? And this is super cool because just this week we reached 100,000 email addresses.
That's awesome.
And a good quality list. So for us to kind of see something that we wanted to give to people to help them, and then for it to turn into this big company and this team and all this stuff is the most gratifying thing, because we never led with, here's the revenue projections, here's what we want to do, which I know we probably should have, but it was like, let's just help people. Let's just get this out. This is cool. Cause I went back into boxing for a bit. So, I think it's kind of been a beautiful journey, and everything happens for a reason. And I think that I had one more fight, and then Soul started taking off, and I felt like, okay, maybe this is God, the universe telling me that I need to retire, I need to heal, and I need to, spread the word and help more people heal.
Yeah, man. And CBD is legit. Like if my anxiety is high, I take it before I go to bed. It helps me sleep. It helps me do all those things necessary. I'm excited to try yours. I have some on the way. So that's super exciting. And, I think people are still a little lost with what CBD is. Like, are you still running into that issue being like, are you high all the time? Are you like, is that still happening? I feel like it shouldn't be happening anymore.
I know, but it's wild. I mean, you have a great point. Like too often when you're in something, you think that everybody knows it, but you have to take a step back. Right. And one of the questions we get, because we do quizzes all the time, one of the main questions we still get is, will CBD get me high? Will CBN get me high? There's still a lot of confusion. And so for us, we are trying to educate our customers and bring them along the ride with us. So to answer your question, no, CBD is non-psychoactive. It will not get you high. It has a whole list of benefits, including anti-inflammatory properties. And we're now discovering other cannabinoids as well. I'd mentioned CBN. That's something that we put in our broad spectrum products that help with sleep, for instance, like our sleep gummies that have high amounts of CBN, CBD, melatonin, L-theanine, magnesium, all this good stuff. But it's THC that's the psychoactive element to it. And, and I don't want to demonize THC, but our entire line is 0 THC. And that really started because I was getting drug tested every single fight. And we had to do third-party lab testing, double third-party lab testing. We go above and beyond with our testing and our certificates of analysis, our COAs, because at the time, my body was my biggest asset. And if I popped on a drug test, it had huge implications. And so I wanted our customers to feel the same level of trust and transparency, because unfortunately, there's a lot of bad actors in this space because of lack of regulation. And so for us, it's been a journey to kind of educate and help people and help them know to trust us. And if, if we can't help you, then we can steer you to a brand or a solution that can.
Yeah, dude, I love it. So let's talk about some of the benefits of CBD. I know you kind of brushed over it with some of the things people can use it for, but what have you seen some, either yourself or some people close to you, or even your clients, what are they using it for to kind of help them through?
Yeah, our biggest 3 pain points we see are anxiety, sleep, and pain. And you throw anxiety and stress in the same kind of category. What CBD is doing and other cannabinoids and everything in the plant is it's affecting the endocannabinoid system. All mammals have an endocannabinoid system. So that's why this stuff actually works with dogs and cats and whatnot. A lot of people use it with horses. But the endocannabinoid system we have known has been around we've discovered that's been in our system and in our bodies, obviously, for a long, long time. It affects the nervous system and it puts us into homeostasis. So why that's important is so often people are, way too high, way too low. Their nervous system is not regulated correctly. So in terms of the anxiety, a lot of people don't know where that anxiety is coming from or why it's coming in. So what's been nice about CBD is it can help that in a lot of ways without getting you high, without getting that psychoactive element, whether you are drug tested for a job or you need to drive or whatever it is. THC definitely helps with pain and a lot of other issues, but we're finding that a lot of these other cannabinoids are helping with very pain point specific things like sleep, like anxiety or like inflammation. And so what we've been doing is really getting strategic about pulling out different cannabinoids and putting them in pain point specific products.
Dude, I love it. So let's talk business a little bit. I'm obviously going from 10 people on your email list to 100,000 people. I know people heard that and they're like, wait, what? That's insane. Talk a little bit about that journey. How long, number one, how long did it take you? And what have been some of your tactics that you're utilizing to grow that list, to grow your client base?
Yeah. So it's been about 3.5 years. Will be 4 years in August. I mean, so many tactics. First of all, just hiring really smart people and a great culture and a great team. I think that's been massive. We've really been community first, brand second. And so whether that is, our affiliate community, whether that's customer service, especially, we've really focused on that. A lot of people, when they think of marketing channels, they leave out customer service. And that's been one of the biggest marketing channels for us. Angie and I, no matter how big we get, we want to feel like the brand has one-to-one customer service to founder to top team interaction and communication. So Angie will hop in the DMs, I'll hop in the DMs. We want people to feel like, we're not turning into Coca-Cola, Nestle, and we're obviously nowhere near that. But, I think it's important, especially nowadays, for people to have that one-on-one connection. So that's been massive for us. And a huge reason why our customer retention is really, really high. Like, our conversion rate and our customer retention is super high because it's community first and brand second. So whether we're creating new products, we ask our audience first. Whether we're doing taste testing, we have our audience try, or we ask them first. So we're trying to figure out, what does our audience want? What does our community want? And then product ideation comes from that, versus let's create this product because the margins are super high and we think we'll sell through in these channels. We go the opposite route. And I think that's really, really helped us with that customer retention and just over time really growing pretty organically, especially because of all the compliance and paid ad restrictions that we have as a CBD company, unfortunately.
Yeah. What's the research look like as you look into these new products, and how do you test them, and how what's the market research as far as like, okay, this is kind of the next thing coming up. Is it worth us going into? Is it really the next wave?
Yeah, great question. So we have a lot of doctors that advise us. In fact, we have a line coming out with Dr. Jess Petros that's coming out later this summer. And she is, along with some others, have helped us formulate all of our capsules and have really helped us kind of stay ahead of the curve. For instance, we saw about a year ago that mushrooms were really taking off, all these different adaptogens and nootropics, and people started understanding that world. And so our capsules now have, cordyceps, lion's mane, rhodiola, all these all natural, incredible benefits that have obviously been around for a long, long time, but people are now starting to understand. So it's important for us that not only we're not just a CBD company, we're a wellness company, really. So we're utilizing all these other incredible natural supplements in addition to CBD with our products. And our doctors and our research team is really, really helping us with that. I've obviously learned along the way, but I lean towards the experts because, I used to get punched in the face for a living. So, I've learned a thing or two, but I've hired a lot smarter people than me. And I think that's the key is to the success of this business.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, this guy's using a lot of big words for a guy who got punched in the head so much. I was like, this is impressive. No, but it shows you how much thought has gone into your business and every single product that you guys are rolling out, how much thought goes into it, and how you wouldn't give something to a customer that you wouldn't put into your own body. Going back to the story of, hey, I was getting tested all the time while boxing, like that's a testament to the quality of the product, right?
Without a doubt. And I think, like the story you just shared again about your mom, like when you're in pain and you've experienced pain on such a visceral level, right? What you want to do is help other people get out of pain. And it's only from having that pain that gives you that empathy and that perspective, right? Mm-hmm. It's without a doubt something that's probably made you successful and made you want to put on these events. And, do what you do and have a big show, it's because you've experienced that pain. So in a sense, that pain is a gift because it's allowed you to help other people and instill hope. And I'm trying to look at my pain the same way. Me going through that pain, both today and in the past, has given me this, this appetite and this like demand of myself to help other people get out of pain. And right now it's Soul CBD, but one day it might be something else. And that doesn't matter what it is, but I'm going to continue to find ways to connect with people and to instill hope in people, because as you know, when you've been in that kind of pain, all you want to do is get out of it. And all you want to do is connect and help others get out of it. And so in that way, that I think the pain has been a gift.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. So obviously, because of this podcast, I've had the opportunity to sit down with some of the most successful people in the world, however you want to define success. So my question for you is, what is your definition of success? And then what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
It's like a life coach session here. Maybe I need to, I mean, well, I think success is happiness, point blank, right? Mm-hmm. So on paper, have had some success. I also think that what's made me successful is that I've been willing to fail. I mean, I really say that a lot. Like, I think a lot of people are scared to fail and scared to get embarrassed. And shit, I've been knocked out in front of 1 million people on TV and 20,000 MGM Grand. Like, I'm not afraid to fail. You know, obviously I don't look forward to it, but I've learned a lot from those failures, and especially in this business. So that's a huge part of it. But I do think success is happiness and finding that happiness, because I've had great moments. I've had, you know, for instance, that belt I won when I broke my rib should have been a happy moment, and it just wasn't. I wasn't fulfilled. And so trying to find that happiness. And what do I do every day for that? I mean, I love to connect with people. Surfing has become massive for me. It's kind of my new like outlet. So, you know, connecting with humans, surfing, and then breath work has been huge for me too. So I don't really take that list. Maybe I need to start doing it and kind of be like, these are my 3 things, but yeah, I have a bunch of different tools to kind of get out of those slump or those dark like days when I do have depression or things that have popped up, probably because of concussions. But yeah, I think that's it.
No, I love it, man. I love it. So I wrap up every single interview with the same question, but before we get there, how do people get a hold of you? Where do they get more information about Soul CBD? What's all the good stuff?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram a lot. It's at official Mike Lee. DM me, try to hop on there, you know, as much as I can. We are mysoulcbd.com. So you can find us at mysoulcbd. Our customer service, as I mentioned, our social team is super active. So if you have any questions, please hit me up. If you've gone through autoimmune issues and have questions outside of CBD, please hit me up. Yeah, and just happy to connect.
Love it, man. So I like I said, I wrap up with the same question, but before I get to that question, what's next for you guys? Like, what are you working on next? What's exciting for you? What's driving you to like the next level with Soul CBD?
Yeah. So Dr. Jess's line is really, really big. We're excited about that whole line of capsules coming out that's going to help with thyroid, with hormone, with gut health. So we're really becoming a wellness brand. We're not just a CBD brand. So what's next for us is really diving into wellness as a whole. We started offering, you know, and partnering with breathwork apps, breathwork teachers, meditation teachers. So we want to become a one-stop shop for wellness and everything that encompasses that. And so that I get excited about, because that gives us so much optionality, and it's a way for us to say, listen, we know CBD isn't the end all be all. There's so many tools in the tool belt that you can use to start feeling happy and getting your life back again. So yeah, excited about that.
Awesome, man. And so since the show is called The Growth Now Movement, the final question I ask everybody is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Wow. You know, when I had my comeback fight after being in the hospital and still on meds, but you know, the 8 medications I mentioned, in and out of hospitals for almost 2 years, I had my comeback fight for my 13th fight. And it was against another undefeated fighter on NBC, actually in Philadelphia. I fought at Temple.
Nice.
I ended up winning. I got a 6-round knockout. That probably was the best fight of my life. amateurs, pros, better than title fights, anything, what have you. Because for me, I didn't even know if I was going to keep fighting. I just told myself, get number 13, get this fight in, prove to yourself that you can go from where you were to where you are now. So I didn't tell people that, but that fight to me was the biggest growth for me, because it kind of showed the pain I went through just to even get back in the ring, whether I won or lost. And for it to be on a big stage, it was probably one of the biggest growth moments of my life.
It's also, and then you had 9 more fights after that.
Yeah, and then I'm crazy. So for some reason,
you're like, just one more. Just kidding.
Yeah, I'm that guy. It's like just one more, and then I have 10 more. So yeah, that then that happened. Then finally got to a point where I think I was like, all right, you're done.
I love it. Mike, thank you so much, man, for coming on the show and sharing your journey, but more importantly, taking your pain and turning it into a purpose and really helping people through their struggles with what you guys are doing. I'm excited to see what you guys do as a whole wellness community. And dude, just thank you so much.
Thanks, Justin. I really appreciate it.